The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. The Department of Defense is working with Google to help secure America's digital defense systems, from establishing cloud-based zero-trust solutions to deploying the latest AI technology. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
A science story, huh?
These NYU scientists,
I felt
really
right.
but I was so
And I just thought, well,
I had figured it out
It was that golden moment.
because science was on my side.
hey everyone, welcome to The Story Clutter, where true personal stories about science help us to discover how weird and wonderful it is to exist in this world and be a human. I'm your host, Misha Gajewski, and today's episode is so powerful. Both our storytellers show the lengths some people need to go to study science, and I'm truly in awe of the resilience both these storytellers have when it comes to pursuing their dreams. Our first story comes from neuroscientist and Columbia University postdoctoral researcher Rajyashree Sen. She shared this story at our Go to New York spot, Caveat, and let me tell you, it puts every bureaucratic nightmare you've ever experienced to shame. The grit, the stamina, and sheer determination it takes to navigate India's passport office, next level. Honestly, Rajyashree deserves a round of applause just for surviving that system. Oh, and for telling a fantastic story too. Here's Rajyashree.
In 2011, I was doing my master's in biotechnology in the University of Hyderabad in India. I have to say, I was a nerd. I wanted to be an academic, and I really loved science, but India was fucking hard. The whole system is really like some kind of Hunger Game where the weak don't survive, and I was feeling weak. I was surrounded by all these hyper-competitive people, and I didn't really like that, because I'm a dreamer, FYI. So this particular day, I was 2 days away from a semester exam, and I was trying to cram a semester's worth of material in 2 days because I hadn't studied. It was hot because Hyderabad in summer is a hot, brutal month. The sweat dripped down my face. I wanted to get the hell out, and I had just called my parents, and I told, in the middle of the night, bawling, and they'd said what they usually said, it's not you, Rai, it's the system. It's the system. They were low-key anarchists. So I hung up on them, and then I was looking through the internet, and for some material for my exam, and I came across this application call for a PhD program in Vienna, and I knew this place because my cousin went there to do her PhD. So the deadline was in 12 hours, and I literally dropped everything, I don't know why, and applied on a whim. Now, months passed, and I never heard back, and honestly, it was a travesty of an application, so I was not expecting to hear back. But one day I received this email from the ether, a woman I didn't know who had emailed me because she had seen that I was one of the 10 Indians who had been selected for this Vienna interview. And she had this very specific question about getting an Austrian visa. I don't know what she was talking about. But it's turned out that I was selected for this interview a month and a half ago, but the interview invitation emails all came from this man named Christopher Robinson, who I thought was a spammer. So I had been sending all his emails to the spam inbox without opening them. So I was thrilled. I was excited because in those days, Vienna Biocenter sponsored the entire trip to Vienna. But here's the thing. I didn't have a passport. And I don't know about here, but in India, it takes either 15 days or 6 months to get a passport. And I needed to get to this interview in a month and a half. And according to math, I needed to get this passport in 15 days. So, day after day, I'd queue up in front of the Secunderabad passport office at 4 a.m. because hoping to be one of the chosen ones, because they had this cap on the number of applicants they, allowed for the 15-day fast processing passport application. And my turn never came, and I felt like Sisyphus walking back and forth my campus and the passport office. And imagine a Sisyphus in high heels. And a soft-spoken one. It was really like triple whammy. And but then there were all these stalls around the passport office, and in retrospect, they kind of looked really sketchy. But at the time, they were very like official looking. So one day there was this man who came out of one of these stalls and introduced himself to be as somebody who worked for the passport office. And, he looked really busy, so I thought he was legit. He's went through some of my documents and photocopied a bunch of them, and I was like, man, finally, something's happening. But it soon dawned on me that this is just a random dude who's trying to scam me. And this time, y'all, I decided to fight. And just to give you some background, he was like 5 times my size. My nose was on his chest. And this giant man was standing on my face, and he was swaying and had this huge biceps. And he just looked at me and he was like, you owe me money, in broken Hindi, because his mother tongue is Telugu and my mother tongue is Bengali, and none of us can really speak fluent Hindi, but broken Hindi is all we got. So he looks at me and he's like, you owe me money. And I look at him and I'm like, a part of my brain's like, he's kind of big. But I hear myself say, you know what I know how to do? I know how to punch a man. I had 2 friends that day who were wiser and worldlier than me, who pulled me away. And I think this man laughed. And I think one of my friends actually paid him on my behalf, and I never forgave him for doing that. But one thing was becoming really clear to me, that there was no way I'd get this passport from Hyderabad in 15 days. So I really thought I wouldn't be able to go. So I called my parents in Calcutta, that's my hometown, and I told them everything. And my dad, he freaked out. He was like, you're killing me, right? You're killing me. You cannot queue up in sketchy neighborhoods at 4 a.m. and fight with somebody who's 5 times your size. And I get that. I had a few accidents in Hyderabad. That's a different story. I get that. I get that. But my mom, on the other hand, was this really positive, boisterous woman. She was badass. She broke all the rules all the time. She found loopholes in systems. So she told me there has to be a way you can get a passport in 15 days from Hyderabad. Just talk to your professors. And I thought, she knows not what she says. My professors are a bunch of useless intellectuals. But it turns out she was kind of right. One of my professors had an ex-student who worked for the Indian Civil Service, and he helped me figure out my passport, and I actually got my visa 2 days before I flew. And in Vienna, I was crushing the interview. I was on a roll, but midway through, I made a terrible mistake, and my heart just sank. And I just couldn't get my confidence back up. I just left the interview, bored, almost on the verge of tears. I went back to my hotel room crying, and I was called my parents, and I said, I fucked up. But my parents, on the other hand, they kept their sense of humor throughout the process. They told me that they loved me and that it didn't matter if I didn't make it to this PhD program, that I should walk in the snow and take some pictures. I should binge on some Mozart chocolates, maybe go to Belvedere Palace. And I remember feeling so grateful to have, my parents, the kind of parents that were my parents. But the next day I found out they selected me for the program. I don't know why. I have no idea why, but it seems like they'd really liked me. And so I got a position in a neuroscience lab, and it really started my long career in neuroscience. And I have to say, my PhD went really well. In 2017, I was wrapping it up. 3 of my projects were done, two of them were almost done. One was published, I got rave reviews. I was getting really excited for my PhD defense because I knew I'd crush it. But 3 months before my PhD defense, I received this phone call from my mom. And my mom was this really boisterous, positive woman, but she called crying. She said that my dad was really ill, and she had to make some really hard medical decisions, and she couldn't think straight. And so I postponed my defense, and I flew back home the next morning. And I remember this time when I went back home, I felt so close to my parents. It was in a way that I hadn't felt in a long time. And I noticed that, they're getting old. They're really getting old. We watched a lot of movies together. We watched Run, Lola, Run 5 times in 2 weeks. And they came to say goodbye to me in the Kolkata International Airport. I remember saying goodbye at the international departure zone. And I was walking away to the security, and I turned back, and they were still standing behind those sliding glass doors. And I was walking away to the security. They were getting smaller and smaller. Then they were waving at me, and they were smiling at me. And I remember thinking, they think that I'm so cool. It's almost embarrassing. They're so proud of me. That's kind of awkward. And I remember thinking when I saw my dad wave with me, what if this is the last time I saw him? And it was, because he died 15 days later. And my mom died a year and a half after he died, so that was really the last time I saw my parents together. In 2019, I joined my postdoc lab. I moved to New York City. I started my postdoc at Columbia University. My postdoc advisor, Richard Axel, is a scientist I truly admire. He, in the 1990s, did an elegant set of experiments that really opened the door to our understanding of how the brain interprets the sense of smell, which won him the Nobel Prize in 2004. In his lab, I tried to understand how mice recognize each other through their sense of smell. And my experiments are going really well. I may have a lab one day. I also really love New York City. It's a city full of immigrants. It's a city full of dreamers. It's a city full of bohemian misfits, so I feel like the city and I get each other, And sometimes when I walk home from the lab, I walk by the Hudson. I look at this beautiful silhouette of the Manhattan skyline and think about my parents. Thank you very much.
That was Rajyashree. To learn more about her, visit our website, storyclatter.org. Being a storyteller on stage is just one way to make Storyclatter happen, but if sharing a story in front of an audience isn't your jam, maybe becoming a Storyclatter donor is more up your alley. Right now, the voices of scientists and science communicators need to be heard more than ever. At Storyclatter, we believe that personal stories can cut through the noise, connecting people to the human side of science, building trust, and making complex issues real. But we can't do this work without you. Storyclatter donors play an essential role in our ability to bring you this podcast, share these stories, and foster conversations that matter. If you believe in the power of science storytelling, please donate to the Storyclatter at storyclatter.org/donate. The most popular level is $10 a month, and you can make your tax-deductible donation at storyclatter.org/donate. But really, any level makes a difference, and we're so grateful to everyone who supports Storyclatter. Hey everyone, I've always been a little skeptical about tap water. I mean, who really knows what's in there? Turns out the Environmental Working Group does, and according to extensive research by them, virtually every home in America has harmful contaminants in its tap water. Gross. That's why I'm so excited about AquaTrue. Their purifiers use a 4-stage reverse osmosis purification process, which means they remove 15 times more contaminants than ordinary water pitcher filters, and are specifically designed to combat chemicals like PFAS in your water supply. Unfun fact, PFAS, the forever chemical, are found in almost 45% of US tap water, so it's awesome that AquaTrue is certified to remove these contaminants. Plus, their countertop purifiers require no installation or plumbing. Just plug it in and you're good to go. And if you're worried about expensive filters, don't be. AquaTrue filters are affordable and last from 6 months to 2 years, which is great because I hate changing filters every 2 to 3 months. And the best part, the water tastes amazing. Seriously, my tea, better. My coffee, also better. Even my pets and plants are into it. So, if you want to drink cleaner, healthier water, check out AquaTrue. Right now, Story Collider listeners get 20% off any AquaTrue purifier. Just go to aquatrue.com, that's AQUATRU.com, and use promo code Collider at checkout. That's 20% off any AquaTrue water purifier when you go to aquatrue.com and use promo code COLLIDER. Okay, I have to admit, I never really thought about my indoor air quality until I learned that indoor air can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air. Yikes. But since I got an air doctor, game changer. Air Doctor removes 99.99% of contaminants from allergens and smoke to mold spores and viruses, which is great because I live in a big city and have a pet. And get this, it captures particles 100 times smaller than standard HEPA filters. Basically, it's working overtime, so I don't have to worry about what I'm breathing in, like all the cat dander my cat is shedding. Since getting an air doctor, I've totally noticed the difference in how much less stuffed up I am in the morning, so no wonder Newsweek voted it Best Air Purifier. And 98% of customers say they feel the difference. If you want to breathe easier and sleep better, now's the time. Story Collider listeners can get up to $300 off. Just go to airdoctorpro.com, airdoctorpro.com, and use promo code Collider, COLLIDER, at checkout. It even comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and a 3-year warranty, so you've got nothing to lose, except the bad air. Our next story is from the Assistant Director of Aquatic Life at Columbia University and co-host of the podcast Getting Fishy With It, Josh Barber. His story was also recorded at Caveat. Josh's story is an incredible journey of resilience. He's faced more obstacles than any one person should have to, and yet he still comes out on top. Truly inspiring. I'm in awe of Josh, and I love this story so much. I can't wait for you to hear it. Here's Josh.
So I'm the oldest of 10 kids, and it often takes a lot of people aback, right? Because it's not the olden days anymore. But it's my thing that I respond to people when they ask pressing questions like, why don't you want kids? Well, I'm the oldest of 10. Why are you so annoyingly responsible? I'm the oldest of 10. Why did you guys move so much when you were young? I'm the oldest of 10. And also, we were running from the law. More about that later. I didn't know why we were moving so much as a kid, but I did know that I loved science. And I can credit my mother for fostering that love in me. When I was 6 years old, she would take a break from giving birth to walk us down the street to find monarch butterfly caterpillars that were living on milkweed plants. And we loved collecting them, and we would keep them in these little plastic critter keepers. And it was my job every day to collect the milkweed and bring that back. And we were just captivated by watching them eat and munch and grow and eventually climb to the top of the critter keeper and hang from the top and eventually metamorphosize into a butterfly after that chrysalis. And it was just amazing to see. My real and true obsession came when my parents got me my first fish tank at the age of 8. And that was where my true obsession was unleashed. He was my first fish named Petey, and I was just completely hooked, pun intended. I told you there'd be a pun. I could not stop. I started memorizing the Dewey Decimal System so I could make my way to all the libraries and know exactly where the fish books were. And since we moved a lot, there were like so many more books to find. I had this little journal where I would diagram fish setups to complete with pricing and sketches. When I got a little bit of money, I subscribed and got a membership to Tropical Fish Hobbyist magazine, and I would pour through the articles. This is real. I need help. I would pour through the articles, just like reading about all the species and from these experts in the field. And when the internet was invented, I never thought I would say that. I am proud to say that I ordered fish from aquabid.com, which is like an eBay for fish. When I was 11, the law did finally catch up with my dad, and he was taken away on charges of larceny. I was confused. My dad wasn't a scam artist absconding with millions of dollars and taking us on lavish vacations or buying yachts. He was just a failing business owner who was trying to feed us. But, the American court system has always been known to be really good to black men, and so he was out of the picture, and he was our sole wage earner. And in no time, we lost our house, we lost our belongings, we lost all of our family photos and storage, and we were on our own. It was surprisingly easy for me to step up as a leader in my family because, I don't know if you heard me at the top, but I am the oldest of 10. And that meant that while mom was out looking for work, I was doing things like babysitting. I was teaching Lauren and Rachel how to read using this big, like, reading homeschooling book that was completely tattered, but I had learned to read myself with it. I changed diapers, I cooked meals, and I did it all because, frankly, I was there. I was there to do it. No one else was going to. And it was all going to be okay because mom was there. She was our anchor in the storm, and we can get through anything with her. As they say, when God closes a door, he closes the window too and locks it, and you get stuck inside. Mom got her first breast cancer diagnosis, and we were living in Minnesota in a homeless shelter with basically no semblance of health care. It did not take a long time until that cancer had moved to her bones, and the prognosis was not looking good. I had like a lump in my throat all the time that just never went away. And I just felt that I had to be optimistic. I had to be there for my anchor. I had to be there for mom. So I choked down those feelings and I focused on the present. I think in times of despair, we oftentimes grasp for things that give us comfort. And for me, it was reading my books and watching my fish grow. I envied them. They have such simple lives. They didn't have to worry about losing a parent. That year, we moved across country to New Haven, Connecticut, from Minnesota to New Haven, to a shelter there. And while mom couldn't leave the apartment much because she wasn't feeling well, we as kids discovered a local book bank that was connected with us. And there was this wonderful woman named Chris Alexander there, a wife of a Yale executive. She recognized our dire need, and she set up a little tutoring program for my siblings. And for me specifically, she knew I was a fish nerd, and so she would collect all the fish books that came in, and she would set them aside and not let anyone have them, and then she would save them for me. And these books were an escape for me. I could read about some distant lake in a faraway land with cool fish or some deep sea vents in the bottom of the ocean. And I was just kind of transported there through learning about wildlife. And then we would return home, and it was back to reality, back to helping mom out of bed. back to being a 13-year-old parent to 9 kids. I believed everything my mom said. I believed that she was going to get better. I believed that the raw juice diet she was consuming was going to purge the cancer from her frail body. And I believed it right up until I found myself with all of my siblings around her hospital bed, just weeping. She was unresponsive. Her eyes rolled back in her head. She struggled to breathe, and I just watched her chest and begged for the next breath as she clung to the last threads of life. And I remember reaching down and telling her for the last time that I loved her. And then the doctors rushed in and ushered us out. And that was it. The person who I relied on for everything was gone. And I lost my resolve. My siblings were looking to me for guidance, but I didn't have a compass. I didn't have my anchor. I felt like a planet with no sun. A glimmer of hope did come in the form of local families, which took us in. And my new family wrapped me in love and a good heaping of white privilege and made sure I got a good education. They even let me bring my menagerie of pets. And it was a big deal. Like, not everyone is cool with surprise pet snakes showing up at their door, but they were. It's amazing how much someone can flourish when all their needs are met. You know, I didn't have to focus on, tutoring Jamie in math or getting Luke up into his high chair. I could be a kid again. I could go for a bike ride or go fishing or watch TV all day. And don't get me wrong, I was still reeling from the death of my mom, and I think I felt very guilty about not being responsible for my siblings anymore, but I could just exhale again. I could refocus on my love of science, my love of fish, and focus on what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. In college, I was known as the piranha guy. Well, I was known as the huge afro guy first, but then the piranha guy after that. And after college, I found out that there was this whole field I had never knew existed. Do you know that all around the globe, there are laboratories that use fish in research, and they need fish-obsessed nerds like me to take care of them? I know now. I'm 36 years old now. I'm still young. Thank you. 36 years young. As Diana said before, I'm the Associate Director of Aquatic Life at Columbia University here in Manhattan. And I will never lose my fascination with fish and my obsession with fish. But I no longer stare into the tank wishing I were them. Just as my job is to cultivate them and provide an environment wherein they can grow and flourish, I feel like the same has been done for me. I am happy to say that I've also taken up the mantle of the anchor in my family, and it's the role that I am the most proud of any of my roles. Thank you.
That was Josh. To learn more about him, visit our website, storyclatter.org. Our website is just one way to connect with Storyclatter, but there are so many other ways, and we hope you'll use them all. You can always follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. Head to storyclatter.org to become a financial supporter, or if you want to come to one of our shows, start your own Storyclatter show in your community, or even learn how to tell your own science story, You can learn all about that on our website too. This podcast is produced by me, Misha Gajewski, along with Jen Chen, Nikisha Roberts-Washington, and Aaron Barker, Executive Director and co-founder of The Story Clatter. The stories featured in today's episode were produced by Christine Gentry, Paula Croxon, and Diana Lee. Special thanks goes out to Story Clatter's board and team. Our theme music is by Ghost, and next week we'll be back with freak accident stories. They're wild, funny, and a little gross. You don't want to miss it. Until next time, thanks so much for listening.